Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. So new Game of Thrones tonight, so I thought it'd be a good time to do a refresher on White Walkers and the Night's King. So just careful for spoilers for everything that's happened on the show so far. This will be a combo of stuff that we've learned from the books and stuff that we've learned from the show. There have been a couple changes that the TV show has made to the portrayal of White Walkers, but only in what it's omitted thus far and what it's shown that the books have not shown. Like, we haven't really seen the Lands of Always Winter in the books yet, but on the TV show during season 4, we got like a post-credit scene during episode 4 where we saw the Night's King make a new White Walker using one of Craster's babies. That's not in the books. The way Dan and Dave explained it is that they felt like in the timeline, right at that moment, that was going on in the Lands of Always Winter. So they were just shining a light on an area of Westeros and what was going on in a moment that the books had not done yet. But one of the big things that they omitted was actually in the very first episode, in the pilot episode. If you remember, Game of Thrones has an unaired pilot that they just felt like was total shit, so they had to completely reshoot it. They recast some of the actors, and part of the stuff that they changed was in the original version of the pilot. The prologue scene with the Night's Watch was almost like a page-to-screen copy-paste, and they felt like the White Walkers would be a little bit better if they didn't reveal so much up front. Like the fact that they have language, or even the look of them. They just wanted to make them a little more terrifying. They said that in the original version of the pilot, like when people were watching this scene, people who weren't familiar with the books had a hard time understanding who were the good people, who were the bad people, because you don't really know much about the Night's Watch. You just know they're a group of people walking around in the woods, and you just know that the White Walkers are this mysterious force that kill them off. So in order to make it a little bit easier for non-book readers to understand who you're supposed to be afraid of, they took all the dialogue away from the White Walkers, and they got rid of big close-ups like you see in Hardhome. So you come away from that scene being really scared and not entirely sure of what you just saw. Somebody killed all these people, we're not exactly sure who they are, what their motivation is, and what they look like. There's a quote describing them that was actually in the graphic novel version of the story that just says, "The others are not dead. They're strange, beautiful, like supernatural creatures made of ice. Some different sort of life, inhuman, elegant, dangerous." So you can see how it'd be confusing if they made them look too pretty. So they wanted to make them look a little more fearsome for the TV show, take away their ability to talk, but that doesn't mean that we won't hear them speak at all, because they do have language, even though the TV show hasn't really made that clear. In the prologue for the first book, the language is described as scroth, which practically sounds like the cracking of ice. So if any of you live near like a frozen body of water, you just go out and listen for ice cracking. That's what White Walkers talking to each other sounds like. But disappointing as it may be, we might actually get a version of that before the series is done. I think as we're getting on in the episodes, we're learning more and more about them. We're going to learn more about them through Bran and the Three-Eyed Raven this season. So I think it's safe to say that by the time we get to season 8, we'll probably hear their actual language. And the person that developed the Dothraki language for the show, David Peterson, he actually developed a White Walker language, but they chose not to use it on the show. So I know everybody's like shaking their fists like, oh, we want to hear the language. I know you're probably disappointed, don't worry, we'll probably hear it at a certain point. If they ultimately decide to never use it, they would probably include it on a DVD bonus feature. But let's talk about weapons, wights, and ice spiders. So, if you don't know what the difference between a White Walker and a wight is, a White Walker is one of the sons of Craster that has been raised or turned by the Night's King into a White Walker and raised in their culture. They have powers like the Red Priests have powers like Thoros of Myr, like Melisandre. Everyone's powers are a little bit different, but as far as we know, all the White Walkers have the same power, and the Night's King just happens to be the most powerful. Obviously, he's the leader. It's not the best analogy, but think of them working with ice, making things, objects, weapons with ice, the same way the Valyrians worked with Valyrian steel. I know a lot of people are wondering if the Night's King has a horn on his back, like, ooh, is that the Horn of Winter? No, it's really just an ice blade that looks really badass. You can see a better version of it in this behind the scenes video right here. We know right now that the most effective weapons against them are obsidian and Valyrian steel. Wights are another tool that they use. They're basically like the infantry of their army. They're able to raise the dead. They reanimate corpses. It's not like Thoros of Myr or Melisandre bringing back people from the dead. George R. Martin hasn't fully explained the mechanics of it, but think of it as someone being made whole again, just, with pieces missing. Like every time Beric Dondarrion gets brought back, he says he feels like a piece of him got left behind, so there's less and less of the original version of him. But when a White Walker raises a wight, they could do it to a pile of bones. Thus far, the Red God has not been able to reanimate anyone who hasn't been freshly dead. The current record for Red God resurrection is 3 days. That was Lady Stoneheart, so it remains to be seen if someone can be brought back by the Red God if they've been dead for longer than 3 days. As we saw during Hardhome, the White Walkers can also raise animals. It's like they're riding horses around here. There were said to be ice spiders during the Long Night. That was about 8,000 years ago, so history is a little fuzzy on that. Don't know if we'll ever see him on the show, but Dan and Dave did say that one of the big reasons why the show was getting hard to make was because there were so many more special effects that they had to do now. So we'll see. But the Night's King, I've talked a lot about the Night's King in the past. There are a couple different versions of the Night's King. The one that most people talk about from the books is the 13th Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, who became the first Night's King. When we saw him on the TV show, everyone was like, is this a version of that 13th Lord Commander? Is he been alive this whole time? George R. Martin clarified that no, the original Night's King probably lived and died just like a lot of the people from the Age of Heroes. So the mythical Night's King has been dead for a long time, which means that this Night's King is somebody who probably lived recently. He might even be one of the sons of Craster. We don't really know yet. When you hear the legend of that original Night's King, you really only hear that he fell in love with this mysterious, ghostly-looking bride that seemed like a White Walker. She looked kind of like a White Walker. He gave his soul to her, then they returned to the Night Fort and ruled over it like a king and queen and started turning other people into White Walkers. It wasn't until Bran the Breaker and the king beyond the wall of that time named Yoruman, which will make people's ears prick up because, wait, the Horn of Yoruman is supposed to be the Horn of Winter. Was it the same person that used the Horn of Winter? According to the legend, their peoples came together to defeat the Night's King and his army of White Walkers. But remember, there might be a lot of aspects of history that get bled together. Like if your mother and father told you a bedtime story as a child, they might have changed small details. Now just imagine that happens over 8,000 years. The story gets changed again and again and again and again until it's completely unreliable. So take it with a grain of salt. Really what I'm expecting from them this season is just to see their army get bigger, see them get closer to the wall, and see Bran learn more about them with the three-eyed raven. Most of the battle scenes we see in the trailer, I think, are going to be what the big battles are later in the season. So if the White Walkers do make their way to the wall, I don't think it's going to be till like the very, very end, and it'll be like a season 7 teaser thing where it's like, oh, we're really screwed now. Let me know in the comments though, when do you think that we'll finally see White Walkers south of the wall fighting against, whoever's left in this battle that Ramsay's trying to fight in the north? So if you guys didn't know, we're finally going to see Bran again tonight's episode. We'll have all kinds of stuff to talk about. I'll be posting my episode 2 video after the episode airs, so be sure to subscribe to get it. There is a new round of the giveaway that started now too. If you didn't see my last video, all you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this video. It's just a $20 Amazon gift card. The giveaway will stay open until I post my Q&A video later this week. While you guys wait for my video tonight, you can click here for my White Walker behind the scenes video. It's just like a more complete version of what the show does with the characters. And you can click here for my episode 1 video. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tonight.